The large meeting room went quiet as the screen turned off. Elder Zorax blinked his 4 eyes quickly, one after another. This was how his kind showed they were very worried. "Play it again," he said softly, even though the room had perfect sound. The big screen lit up once more. It showed the empty space near the edge of Virillion protected area. At first, nothing seemed wrong. Then it appeared. A huge ship with sharp edges and a scary look, with markings no one had ever seen before in the known galaxy. "Our tools show the ship is about 3 kilometers long," said Science Minister Claxey. "Its outer shell has materials we cannot identify, and how it moves, well, it goes against what we know about science." "What about the message?" asked Defense Minister Trill. Elder Zorax nodded, and the sound began to play again. "This is Captain Samuel Wright of the Earth Alliance warship Dauntless. We come in peace but are ready for anything. We ask for diplomatic contact. You have 1 day to answer." The message was calm, not mean or scary, yet it made everyone in the room shiver. Humans. The beings that were just a story, a scary tale, told to frighten young Virillians. Stories of creatures who grew up on a world so dangerous that they became almost impossible to kill compared to others. "We must tell the Galactic Confederation," suggested Minister Claxey. "No," Elder Zorax decided. "The Confederation has ignored our calls for help against the Draxan attacks for many years. Maybe these humans could be friends rather than enemies." Defense Minister Trill laughed without humor. "Friends? With simple beings who still use warships? Simple beings who built a 3-kilometer ship that our tools cannot fully understand." Zorax answered back. "Get my small ship ready. I will meet with this Captain Wright myself." As the meeting room filled with protests, Lieutenant Nora Franklin stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, looking at the alien station through the view screen. "They are scanning us again, Captain," she reported, moving a strand of red-brown hair from her face. "More deeply this time." Captain Wright nodded, his weathered face showing no emotion. At 53, he had seen more of space than most humans ever would, but this, first meeting with a new kind of being, this was special. "Let them look," he said. "Jack, status report?" Commander Jack Harris checked his screen. "All systems good, Captain. The crew is on alert as ordered. Marine Group is standing by." "Good. And our guest?" Harris made a slight face. "Dr. Natalie Carter is in her room studying alien language data. She has asked for access to our first scans of the alien station." "Granted," Wright said. "We will need her knowledge if we hope to talk effectively." In her room, Dr. Carter looked over the early data, excitement beating her tiredness. After years of studying how alien languages might work in theory, she was about to use her knowledge for real. The Virillion language patterns were complex but followed certain math rules that suggested talking might be possible without too much trouble. Her computer made a sound with an incoming message. A small ship had left the alien station and was coming toward the Dauntless. History was about to be made, and humanity's long time alone was coming to an end. On the bridge, tension grew as the alien shuttle got closer. "Docking process starts in 2 minutes," reported Chief Engineer Paul Bennett over the comm. "All systems are ready to accept the alien craft." Captain Wright stood, straightening his uniform. This was the moment every space explorer dreamed of. First contact with a new life form. But unlike the hopeful movies of old Earth, humanity had prepared for all possibilities. "Weapons status?" he asked quietly. "All defensive systems ready but not active," Commander Harris replied just as quietly. "Security teams are in place but hidden. We look peaceful, but we can fight in 3 seconds if needed." Wright nodded approval. "Perfect. Let's hope we don't need any of it." When the Virillion shuttle docked with the Dauntless, a small team waited to greet them. Captain Wright stood at the front with Dr. Carter beside him. Behind them, Commander Harris and 2 other officers formed a second row. The airlock door opened with a soft hiss, and Elder Zorax stepped through. The alien was tall, nearly 7 feet, with slender limbs that seemed too delicate to support, even his light frame. His skin was a pale blue with patterns of deeper blue that seemed to shift slightly as he moved. 4 large eyes, set in pairs one above the other, blinked in a wave-like pattern. He wore flowing robes of a material that caught the light like silk but looked stronger. Dr. Carter's translator device hummed softly as it processed the alien's language. "I greet you in the name of the Virilian people," came the translated words. From her device, the alien's actual speech, a series of musical clicks and whistles. "I am Elder Zorax, voice of the High Council." "Welcome aboard the Dauntless," Captain Wright replied. "I am Captain Samuel Wright of the Earth Alliance. This is Dr. Natalie Carter, our language specialist." As Dr. Carter adjusted her translator, Captain Wright noticed how the alien studied them, not with fear, but with a deep curiosity. The Virilian's upper pair of eyes seemed to focus on their faces, while the lower pair tracked their hands and body posture. "Your ship is impressive," Elder Zorax said through the translator. "We had not expected such advanced technology from a species making its first journey beyond its home system." Captain Wright exchanged a quick glance with Commander Harris. That was an interesting assumption, that this was humanity's first trip into deep space. "We appreciate your welcome," Wright said carefully. "Perhaps we could continue our talk in more comfort? We've prepared a meeting room." As they walked, Lieutenant Franklin's voice came through the captain's small earpiece. "Sir, long-range sensors are picking up energy signatures at the edge of the system. They look like ships coming out of faster-than-light travel." Wright kept his face neutral as he guided their guest toward the meeting room. "How many?" "6. No. 7 vessels, Captain. Configuration unknown. Monitor and stay alert. Right out." In the meeting room, Elder Zorax settled into a specially adjusted chair. His 4 eyes looked around with obvious interest at the human designs and technology. "You have questions," the alien stated rather than asked. "As do we. Shall we begin the exchange of knowledge that will either bring our peoples together or drive them apart?" Captain Wright nodded, aware that history itself seemed to hold its breath in this moment. "Let's start with who you are, and why you've chosen to greet us personally, Elder Zorax." As the Virilian began to speak, Wright couldn't shake the feeling that the ships approaching the system would change everything, and not for the better. Dr. Natalie Carter had never thought she would stand face to face, or rather face to four-eyed face, with an alien leader. Yet here she was in the Dauntless's meeting room, watching Elder Zorax look at the human team with clear curiosity. Captain A. Wright sat at the head of the table with Commander Harris and Dr. Carter next to him. 4 armed Marines stood by the door, not threatening but clearly ready. "We welcome you aboard the Dauntless," Captain Wright began, his voice steady and diplomatic. "Dr. Carter will help us talk." Natalie turned on her translation device, which had been quickly set up with the language information gathered from the Virilian messages. "Elder Zorax says thank you for meeting with him," she translated, as the alien spoke in a series of musical clicks and whistles. "He speaks for the Virilian hegemony, a group of 17 star systems. The meeting went surprisingly well. The Virilians, it seemed, had known about humans for some time, watching Earth's broadcasts from far away but following a strict rule of not making contact until a species developed its own way to travel between stars. "We are curious," Natalie translated for Zorax, "how humans made such advanced technology so quickly. Our records show your kind was stuck on one planet just 200 years ago." Captain Wright looked at Commander Harris. The official story was one thing, but the truth, that humans had figured out technology from a crashed alien ship in the mid-21st century, was very secret. "Need makes people create," Wright said carefully. "We faced big problems on Earth that made us develop faster." As the meeting went on, Elder Zorax shared the real reason he was willing to meet. The Draxan Empire, a warlike species that had been moving into Virilian space for decades. "The Confederation ignores our calls for help," Natalie translated, hearing the bitter tone in Zorax's voice even through the alien sounds. "The Draxans take one system, then another. They do not want to live together peacefully." "And you think we might help?" Commander Harris asked directly. "Your ship alone has the fighting power of a small Virilian fleet," came the translated answer. "And we think this is not your only warship." Captain Wright leaned forward. "Earth Alliance rules say we cannot get involved in fights between alien powers without approval from our government." Zorax's four eyes blinked in order. "Of course, but maybe your government would like to set up a trading post in our area, one that might need protection." Back on the bridge, Lieutenant Franklin watched the long-range sensors with growing worry. "Chief Davis," she called to the weapons officer, "I'm seeing strange readings at the edge of the system." Chief Alan Davis, a stocky man with 20 years of service, checked his own screen. "Confirmed. Multiple ships coming in fast. Type unknown, but they're not sending Virillian friend or foe signals." "Tell the captain," Franklin ordered, "and get all defense systems ready." In the meeting room, Captain Wright's communicator made a soft sound. He excused himself to take the message, his face getting darker as he listened. "It seems," he said when he came back, "that we may get a chance to see these Draxons firsthand. Multiple ships are entering the system at high speed." Elder Zorax stood up quickly, his calm manner breaking. "Impossible. They cannot have gotten past our early warning network without being seen." "It seems they have," Wright replied. "The question now, Elder, is whether this is by chance or if they somehow knew we would be meeting here today." The idea of a spy or traitor among the Virillians hung in the air, but there was no time to look into it. The Draxons were coming, and the Dauntless was about to face its first real test in alien space. "We need to get back to the bridge," Wright said firmly. "Elder, you're welcome to join us." As they hurried through the corridors of the massive human ship, Zorax spoke quickly to Dr. Carter. "This is very unusual," she translated as they walked. "The Draxons have never been so bold. They must know about your ship." "How would they know?" Commander Harris asked. "We just got here." The alien's four eyes blinked in a pattern that the translator didn't catch. "The galaxy has many ears, Commander, and many eyes." On the bridge, the screen showed 7 ships moving toward them, 6 smaller vessels around 1 larger command ship. "Time to weapons range?" Wright asked as he took his seat. 11 minutes, Captain," Chief Davis replied. "Get me the Virillian Defense Command," Wright ordered. "We need to work together." Lieutenant Franklin set up the connection, but the news was bad. The Virillian home fleet was spread across the system on regular patrols. By the time they could gather, the Draxon ships would have reached the station. "Elder," Wright turned to Zorax, "I need your permission to fight hostile forces to defend your station. Without it, my hands are tied by Alliance rules." The Elder's four eyes looked straight at Wright's too. "You have it, Captain. Save my people, and the Virillian hegemony will remember Earth's friendship for generations." Wright nodded grimly. "Sound battle stations. Send out all fighter squadrons. Lieutenant Franklin, plot a course that puts us between those ships and the station." Throughout the huge warship, alarms sounded as crew members ran to their battle stations. Marine squads got ready for possible boarding. In the fighter bays, pilots rushed to their craft. Commander Harris watched the deployment from his station. "Fighter squadrons Alpha through Delta launching now, Captain. All weapon systems are ready, shields at maximum." The Dauntless moved forward, its massive engines glowing as it sped up to combat speed. On the screen, the Draxon ships came into view, sleek, hunter-like vessels with forward-swept wings that made them look almost alive. "They're trying to talk to us," Franklin reported. On screen, Wright ordered. The alien that appeared looked nothing like the Virillians. Where the Virillians were tall and thin with 4 eyes, the Draxon commander was thick and reptile-like, with a heavy brow and scales that seemed to glow with an inner light. "Human vessel," the alien spoke through what was clearly its own translation system. "This fight does not concern you. Leave, and you will not be harmed." Captain Wright stood, straightening his uniform. "This is Captain Samuel Wright of the Earth, Alliance Warship Dauntless. We are here at the invitation of the Virillian government. Your forces are threatening a peaceful station. Move your vessels away now, or we will defend Virillian rights." The Draxon commander's scales flashed in what might have been amusement. "1 ship against 7? Your kind is either very brave or very foolish, perhaps both." The screen went black suddenly. "They're powering up weapons," Chief Davis reported, "and launching fighter craft of their own." "Attack when ready," Wright commanded. "Show them what one human ship can do." What followed would later be taught in both human and Virillian military schools as a perfect example of how one side with better technology can beat many enemies. The Dauntless, though it was just one ship against 7, had technology hundreds of years more advanced than the Draxan vessels. Its defense lasers cut through the first wave of enemy fighters with perfect aim. Its main gun, a huge weapon built into the spine of the ship, fired once, twice, and with each shot, a Draxan ship exploded into a cloud of broken parts. In the fighter squadrons, human pilots showed why they were seen as among the best in Earth space. Squadron leader Greg Powell's voice came over the battle channel. "Alpha Squadron, form up on me. Beta and Charlie, go to the sides and attack. Delta, stay back and pick off stragglers." The human fighters, fast, easy-to-move craft with both energy weapons and missiles, dove into the fight, outflying their Draxan opponents at every turn. On the bridge, Captain Wright watched the battle with the calm look of an experienced commander. "Target the command ship's engines," he ordered. "I want it stopped, not destroyed." Elder Zorax watched in amazement as the supposedly simple humans took apart a Draxan battle group that would have beaten the entire Virillian home fleet. "Your people," he said quietly to Dr. Carter, who had stayed on the bridge as a translator, "are a scary force of nature." Natalie smiled thinly. "We try not to be, but we learned long ago that the universe isn't always a friendly place." Within 30 minutes it was over. 4 Draxan ships destroyed, 2 disabled and floating. The command ship, its engines damaged by precise fire from the Dauntless, hung in space like a wounded predator. "Talk to them again," Wright ordered. The Draxan commander appeared, scales now a dull gray rather than the bright colors from before. Smoke rose from control panels behind him. "Do you give up?" Wright asked simply. The alien commander hissed something that the translator didn't catch. "Then we give up, human. But know this, you have made an enemy of the Draxan Empire today, and we do not forget." As the call ended, Elder Zorax approached Captain Wright. "Captain, you and your crew have saved countless Virillian lives today. This debt cannot be easily repaid." Wright shook his head. "We did what any Earth vessel would do for a friend in need." "Friend?" Zorax repeated the word thoughtfully. "Yes. I believe the High Council will be very interested in making such an arrangement official now." As Virillian vessels began arriving, to secure the disabled Draxan ships, Commander Harris approached the captain. "Sir, battle data shows the Draxans were using technology far more advanced than intelligence said they should have. Someone's been helping them." Wright nodded seriously. "And I'd very much like to know who." "Harris, prepare a secure message to Earth Command. Elder Zorax and I need to have a talk with our governments about the changing situation in this part of space. The battle was won, but the real war, the one for influence and safety in this sector of space, was just beginning." 2 days after the Battle of Virillian Prime, as human news outlets were already calling it, Captain Wright found himself in a secure communication room aboard the Dauntless, facing a holographic image of Admiral Olivia Spencer, head of Earth Alliance Intelligence. "Your report is concerning, Captain," the Admiral said, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. "The technology gap you described doesn't match our intelligence on the Draxans. They shouldn't have ships that advanced." "My thoughts exactly." "Admiral," Wright replied. "Someone's giving them supplies. The question is who and why. The Galactic Confederation claims to be neutral in regional conflicts," Spencer said thoughtfully. "But several of the elder races have competing interests in that sector." Wright leaned forward. "Permission to investigate, Admiral. The Virillians have given us temporary basing rights at their station. We could use it as a forward operating position." Spencer was silent for a moment, clearly weighing the risks. "Granted, but be careful. We're still newcomers to the galactic stage. I'm sending the Intrepid and the Valor to join you. They should arrive within 2 weeks. Until then, you're on your own." "Understood, Admiral." Right out. As the hologram faded, Commander Harris entered the room. "Captain, Dr. Carter and the science team have completed their analysis of the Draxan wreckage. we recovered. And? You're going to want to see this for yourself, sir. In the science lab, Dr. Carter and her team had taken apart components from a recovered Draxon fighter. Pieces were spread across multiple examination tables, each surrounded by scanning equipment. Captain, Natalie greeted him, excitement clear in her voice. We've made an important discovery. She led him to a table containing what appeared to be the fighter's central computer core. This processing architecture, it's not Draxon. It's not even something they could have developed based on their technological progression curve. Whose is it? Wright asked. That's the thing, she replied, bringing up a holographic comparison. It bears striking similarities to Virillian design principles, but far more advanced. It's almost as if someone took Virillian technology and pushed it forward by about a century. Wright's expression darkened. Are you suggesting the Virillians are supplying their own enemies with advanced technology? Not exactly, said Dr. Eric Lawson, the team's alien technology expert. But maybe someone with access to Virillian tech is doing so. A splinter group, perhaps. Or a third party with access to their research? Commander Harris frowned. Or the Galactic Confederation itself. They've been remarkably hands-off about the Draxon expansion, despite Virillian appeals. We need more information, Wright decided. Harris, arrange a meeting with Elder Zorax. Dr. Carter, keep analyzing those components. I want to know everything about where they came from. Captain, Lieutenant Franklin's voice came over the comm system. We're detecting unusual activity at the edge of the system. Multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Draxon reinforcements? Wright asked sharply. Negative. Configuration matches neither Draxon nor Virillian designs. They're broadcasting Confederation identification codes. Wright and Harris exchanged glances. Seems our investigation just got more complicated, the captain said. I'll be on the bridge. The Confederation delegation arrived with all the pomp and ceremony-fitting representatives of the galaxy's oldest alliance of species. Their vessel, a massive diplomatic ship called the Arbiter, dwarfed even the Dauntless. The lead diplomat, a being called High Mediator Xyle, belonged to a species known as the Talaxians, one of the founding members of the Confederation. Humanoid in general appearance, but with skin that seemed to shift color slightly with their mood, the Talaxians were known as skilled negotiators and diplomats. Captain Wright, the High Mediator, greeted him in the Virillian Station's grand reception hall. Your actions have created quite a stir in Confederation space. We responded to a direct threat against a friend, Wright replied evenly. Something the Confederation has repeatedly failed to do. Elder Zorax, standing nearby with several Virillian officials, made a soft whistling sound that Dr. Carter later translated as appreciative surprise at the humans' directness. The Confederation's non-interference policy is more nuanced than you may understand, Captain, Xyle responded, skin shifting slightly toward blue. Regional conflicts must be resolved regionally to maintain galactic stability. Even when one side is being armed with advanced technology, Wright asked pointedly. The High Mediator's skin flashed briefly purple. Surprise, Dr. Carter noted, before settling back to a neutral tone. I'm not sure I understand what you're suggesting. Then perhaps you should join us for a tour of our technical labs, Wright suggested. Dr. Carter has made some fascinating discoveries about Draxon weapon systems. Before High Mediator Xyle could answer, alarm sounds began blaring throughout the station. A Virillian officer rushed to Elder Zorax, speaking rapidly in their native language. What's happening? Commander Harris demanded. Dr. Carter, listening, carefully translated. Multiple Draxon vessels have appeared in the system, much larger force than before. They're demanding the station's surrender and the immediate handover of all human personnel. Wright tapped his communicator. Franklin, status report. 17 Draxon warships, Captain, came the reply, including what appears to be a Dreadnought-class vessel. They're blocking long-range communications. We can't get a message to the incoming Alliance reinforcements. The captain turned to Elder Zorax. How long until your fleet can gather? Hours at minimum, the Elder replied through Dr. Carter's translation. We are outmatched. Wright looked at the Confederation diplomat whose skin had taken on a greenish hue. Interesting timing, High Mediator. Almost as if someone knew exactly when to strike. Captain Wright, Zyle said carefully. The Confederation vessel Arbiter is a diplomatic ship. We have no significant defensive capabilities. Then it seems you'll be depending on this primitive human warship for protection, Wright replied coldly. Harris, back to the Dauntless. We're about to teach the Draxons and anyone else watching a second lesson about tangling with humanity. As they departed, Dr. Carter caught sight of one of the Talaxian aides passing something to a Virillian official she didn't recognize. A small data crystal that changed hands in what was clearly meant to be a secret exchange. She made a mental note of the Virillians' distinctive facial markings. The conspiracy, it seemed, ran deeper than they had imagined. Back on the Dauntless, Captain Wright called his senior officers to the tactical room. A holographic display showed the overwhelming Draxon force, 17 warships arranged in a classic encirclement formation around the Virillian station, with the massive dreadnought hanging back directing the operation. We're outgunned and outnumbered, Chief Davis stated the obvious. Then we'll have to be smarter, Wright replied. Status of our fighter squadrons? All squadrons ready for launch, Commander Harris reported. Ammunition stores at 73% following the previous engagement. Wright studied the tactical display. They're expecting us to do the same thing as before, directly engaging their forces to defend the station. We need to change the game. He turned to Lieutenant Franklin. Plot a micro-jump. I want us to drop out of faster-than-light travel directly behind their dreadnought. Franklin's eyes widened. Sir, that's incredibly risky. The calculations would need to be perfect. Can you do it? Wright asked simply. She straightened in her chair. Yes, sir, give me 3 minutes. As Franklin worked, Dr. Carter approached the captain. Sir, before we left the station, I observed something concerning. One of the Confederation delegates passed a data crystal to a Virillian official, one not part of Elder Zorax's group. Wright's expression hardened. Did you recognize the official? No, but he had distinctive scarring across his left facial ridge. It looked deliberate. Some kind of identification mark, perhaps. The captain turned to his XO. Harris, access the Virillian government database. Look for officials with that description. While Harris worked, Wright addressed the bridge crew. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to attempt something that's never been done in combat before. A tactical micro-jump behind enemy lines, followed by a precision strike on their command vessel. If we succeed, we destabilize their entire operation. If we fail, he let the implication hang in the air. Micro-jump calculations complete, Franklin announced. As ready as they'll ever be, sir. Captain, Harris called. I've identified the Virillian, Council member Trix, head of the isolationist faction. They've been advocating against alliance with any outside powers, including Earth, and apparently willing to work with the Confederation. To that end, Wright mused. File that away, XO. We'll deal with the politics after we survive the battle. He returned to his command chair. All hands secure for jump. Weapons, prepare main gun for immediate fire upon return to normal space. Target the Dreadnought's command tower. Aye, Captain. Main gun charged and ready. Execute jump on my mark, Wright ordered. 3, 2, 1. Mark. For a brief instant, reality seemed to bend around the Dauntless. Then, with a flash of exotic particles, the massive human warship disappeared from its position near the station, only to reappear, moments later directly behind the unsuspecting Draxon dreadnought. Fire main gun, Wright commanded. The spinal-mounted mass accelerator, the Dauntless's most powerful weapon, discharged with a thunderous recoil that vibrated through the entire ship. A hypersonic projectile accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed tore through the dreadnought's aft shields and punched clean through its command structure. Direct hit, Davis reported excitedly. Their command tower is gone, picking up massive power fluctuations throughout the vessel. Launch all fighter squadrons, Wright ordered. Target their engine arrays and weapon systems, communications. Broadcast on all frequencies. Let the other Draxan vessels know their flagship is crippled and their commanders dead. As human fighters streamed from the Dauntless's launch bays, the Draxan fleet fell into disarray. Without central coordination from the Dreadnought, their encirclement formation began to break down. Squadron leader Greg Powell's voice came over the tactical channel. "This is Alpha Leader. We're engaging the Dreadnought's secondary weapons. Arrays. Beta Squadron, cover our approach." The battle that followed would later be described by Virillian historians as 17 against 1, and the 1 prevailed. Though outnumbered, the combination of the Dauntless's advanced technology, the precision micro-jump that had caught the enemy completely by surprise, and the tactical brilliance of its fighter squadrons turned what should have been a hopeless last stand into a stunning victory. 3 hours later, the Draxan fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind their crippled dreadnought and 5 destroyed cruisers. The Dauntless had sustained damage. One of its secondary propulsion arrays was offline, and hull breaches had been reported on decks 7 through 9, but it remained combat-capable. As Virillian vessels finally arrived to secure the battlefield, Captain Wright received an urgent communication from Elder Zorax. "Captain," the Elder's translated voice held unmistakable urgency, "you must return to the station immediately. The Confederation delegation attempted to depart during the battle. We've detained them on my authority, but the High Mediator is demanding release." "We're on our way," Wright replied. "And Elder, have your security forces locate and detain Council Member Trix as well." Upon returning to the station, Wright found a standoff in progress. Confederation security personnel stood facing Virillian guards with High Mediator Zyle in heated discussion with Elder Zorax. "This is an outrageous violation of diplomatic protocol," the Talaxian was saying, skin flushed and angry red. "The Confederation will not what?" Wright interrupted as he strode into the chamber, followed by Commander Harris and a squad of human Marines. "Continue supplying advanced weapons to the Draxans? Continue destabilizing this region for your own purposes?" Zyle's skin paled. "These accusations are baseless." "Are they?" Dr. Carter stepped forward, holding a data crystal, identical to the, one she had seen exchanged earlier. "We found this aboard the Draxan Dreadnought. It contains Confederation security codes and technical specifications for weapon systems far beyond Draxan capability to develop independently." It was a bluff. They had recovered no such crystal, but Carter watched the Talaxian's reaction carefully. His skin rippled through several colors before settling on a sickly yellow. "The Confederation has maintained galactic balance for 10,000 years," Zyle said quietly. "Humanity's emergence, your rapid technological advancement, your warships, your expansion threatens that balance. So you decided to contain us by proxy," Wright concluded. "Arm the Draxans, let them eliminate the Virillians, then use that conflict to justify quarantining human space." "It was a regrettable necessity," Sul admitted, surprising everyone with his honesty. "The elder races saw what happened to Earth, how close you came to destroying yourselves. Your species is too aggressive, too unpredictable to be allowed free access to the greater galaxy." Elder Zorax stepped forward. "And yet, when the Draxans threatened us, it was humanity that came to our aid, not the Confederation that claims to maintain peace and order." "A convenient story," Zyle replied, "but one incident does not change humanity's essential nature." "Perhaps not," Wright acknowledged. "But it does change the landscape of galactic politics. As of today, Earth Alliance is formally extending protection to the Virillian hegemony as our first extraterrestrial ally." He turned to Elder Zorax. "With your permission, of course." The Elder performed the Virillian gesture of profound agreement. "The High Council has already voted. Unanimously, I might add. Even the isolationist faction has reconsidered its position in light of today's events." Wright faced the Talaxian diplomat again. "High Mediator, you're free to return to Confederation space with this message. Humanity comes in peace, but we will defend ourselves and our allies without hesitation. If the Confederation wants war, we will oblige. but I suggest you study today's battle records carefully before making that decision. 3 weeks later, the Dauntless, repairs. Completed by Virillian engineers working alongside human technicians, prepared to depart. 2 more Earth Alliance warships, the Intrepid and the Valor, had arrived to establish the first human military presence in Virillian space. On the observation deck, Captain Wright stood with Elder Zorax, watching as shuttles ferried personnel and supplies between the ships and the station. The Confederation Council has formally censured the actions of High Mediator Zil, Zorax informed him. They claim he was acting without authorization. Wright smiled thinly. A convenient fiction that allows everyone to save face. Indeed, but they have also extended an invitation for Earth to send representatives to the Confederation Assembly, the first non-founding species to receive such an honor in 3,000 years. We'll send diplomats, Wright promised, but we'll keep our warships too. Zorax made a sound that the translation software interpreted as laughter. I would expect nothing less from humans. Your reputation spreads now, you know. Throughout this sector, species are whispering the warning that saved my people. Hold on tight, human warship approaching. Captain Wright looked out at the stars, at a galaxy that had just become both more dangerous and more full of possibility. It's a big universe, Elder Zorax. Room enough for all of us, I think, as long as everyone remembers to play fair. In the weeks that followed, much changed in the political landscape of the sector. The Virillian hegemony formally signed a defense and trade pact with the Earth Alliance, the first such agreement between humans and an alien civilization. The treaty established human military bases in key Virillian systems and opened new markets for both species. The Draxan Empire, chastened by their decisive defeat, withdrew their forces from contested border regions, while their official statements remained defiant. Intelligence reports suggested a major shakeup in their military command structure. Those who had pushed for aggressive expansion were replaced by more cautious voices. Most significantly, the Galactic Confederation found itself facing internal dissent for the first time in millennia. Several mid-tier species, long frustrated by the elder race's policy of non-interference, began to question the Confederation's leadership. The revelation that Confederation agents had been secretly arming the Draxans led to calls for greater transparency and accountability. Aboard the Dauntless, now serving as the flagship for Earth's first extraterrestrial fleet, Captain Wright reviewed these developments with his senior staff in the main conference room. The strategic picture is evolving rapidly, Commander Harris noted, pointing to a holographic map of the sector. We've gone from unknown newcomers to major players in the span of a month. Dr. Carter nodded. And it's not just military influence. I've received 17 requests from various species for cultural exchange programs. Everyone wants to learn more about humanity now. They fear us, Chief Davis observed. Some do, Wright agreed, but others see us as potential allies against Confederation domination. The question is, how do we proceed? Lieutenant Franklin, recently promoted to tactical officer, leaned forward. We maintain our strength, but demonstrate restraint. Show the galaxy that humanity can be both powerful and principled. Precisely, Wright said with approval. Earth Command shares that view. We're to continue our mission of exploration and diplomatic outreach, but from a position of unmistakable strength. The meeting was interrupted by a communication from the Yei bridge. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from an unidentified vessel at the edge of the system. Non-standard configuration, not matching any known species in our database. Wright exchanged glances with his officers. It seems our reputation is spreading. Put them through to the conference room. The holographic display shifted to show yet another new alien species, this one vaguely insectoid with compound eyes and a chitinous exoskeleton. When it spoke, Dr. Carter's translation device took several seconds to process the unfamiliar language patterns. Greetings, Captain Wright of Earth, came the translated voice. I am Ambassador Kazatik of the Hive Domains. We have heard of your actions against the Draxans and your defiance of Confederation policy. My government is interested in discussing matters of mutual concern. We're always open to diplomatic contact, Ambassador, Wright replied cautiously. What matters specifically concern the hive domains. The Confederation has blocked our expansion for 2 centuries, claiming our territory disputes would destabilize regional dynamics. Yet they permit the Draxans to act with impunity. We believe your people understand what it means to be contained. Wright nodded slowly. The implications were clear. Humanity was being invited to form another alliance, this time with a species that had its own grievances against the Confederation. I look forward to discussing these matters in person, Ambassador. The Dauntless will remain in system for another 3 days. We would be honored to host a delegation from the hive domains. After the transmission ended, Commander Harris whistled, softly. Another potential ally. Earth Command will be pleased. Or concerned, Wright countered. We need to be careful not to become pawns in conflicts that predated our arrival. The galaxy is more complex than we imagined. Dr. Carter smiled. But we're learning fast, and we have something the Confederation didn't expect. What's that? Franklin asked. We make friends as readily as we make enemies, she replied. The Confederation thought to isolate us, but instead they've given us common cause with others, who chafe under their control. As the Dauntless continued its mission, the message continued to spread from system to system, both a warning and a promise. Hold on tight, human warship approaching. But increasingly, for many species, it was a message, not of fear but of hope.